Welcome back, folks. I'm Jake ELLENBOGEN, and today we are going to be talking about the different real and quotes needed on real options the Rams have at QB. Before we dive into it, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Also, be sure to follow me on all social media, including Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Kick at JKBogan. In addition to that, I just want to let you guys know that today's sponsor of the video is BetUS. And if you're looking for a sports book, MLB season right around the corner, NHL, NBA, March Madness, well, you can head on over to BetUS. Be sure to bet responsibly, but if you're going to get in on it, you want to make sure you use promo code YouTube150. It'll get you 150% bonus match on your first deposit and 125% on your following two deposits using that code. So again, thank you to BetUS for sponsoring today's video, and let's get into it. So first and foremost, let's just start from the top here. Matthew Stafford may or may not be back with the Rams. I would give it about a 1% chance he's back with the Rams. I've been saying it. Now, understand this. You see the pinstripes behind me, that 99 jersey. There was a 99.6% or 99.4% chance he ended up with the San Francisco Giants. Owner calls him up late at night. They get the deal done, decides we can't live without you. And now Aaron Judge is back with the Yankees. This happened 2 years ago, the whole Arson Judge thing. I always bring this up and I preface it with this because there is a reminder that things are fluid. Things in the NFL can change. And while Stafford right now, I don't feel like there's any chance he comes back to the Rams. Something could happen where the Rams are like, you know what? Aaron Rodgers might retire. We don't really like Sam Darnold that much. Jimmy G on paper sounds a lot better than it does actually in the real world, like having him start 17 games for us. So why don't you come back? We'll give you this over 2 years and we'll figure, some things out. It's not impossible for that to happen, but I've been told it's unlikely. Very unlikely is how it has been described. So we'll see how things happen. But to me, to start it off, going through each player here, there are some options that the Rams have. I don't think that there are great options. I think there are only really two if you want to win a Super Bowl. And the first one is Matthew Stafford. You pay him. Okay, look, this guy is getting the fifth most non-fully guaranteed money in the NFL. Okay, so understand that. $72 million is the fifth most non-fully guaranteed money in the NFL. I do think that matters, and I think that needs to be discussed because, people are talking about him like he's this, and I'm not saying everybody is, but it seems like a lot of people are taking the side of the Rams, which, I get it. We're all fans here. Or, a lot of people that are watching this are fans, so I understand. But it's important to also understand that Matthew Stafford currently is the 14th most guaranteed money paid quarterback, right? Currently. He's also the 15th most average annual value. So that's average per year at $40 million. He is 15th behind Josh Allen, Kirk Cousins, who, by the way, is going to be 37 this year, $45 million average annual. He has every single dollar guaranteed except for $10 million, which is one of the lowest there. So I get it. I get why Matthew Stafford wants more guaranteed money. I get why he wants to be paid. I think he wants more than $40 million. We already know that the report came out, 50 plus million, which would put him in the company of Jalen Hurts, who's at 51 million, 27 years old. Lamar Jackson, who's at 52 million at 28 years old, two-time MVP. Justin Herbert at 52.5 million is 27 years old. Jared Goff, 53 million, is 31 years old. Tua Tagovailoa, with a myriad of concussion concerns, is 27 years old, and that would put him at 53.1. Then you get into the 55 million, where there's a three-way tie between Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, and Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's 29, Jordan Love is 27, and Trevor Lawrence is 26. And last but certainly not least, the highest paid, $60 million a year, Dak Prescott at 32 years of age. Now, understand this. Matthew Stafford is not trying to reset the market, so he's not trying to get 61 million or 65 million or anything like that. The 50 plus million, I think, is real. Okay, that's what I've been told, but the way it was kind of put out there, it really felt more as that's what he was looking for from the Rams. And, I've been told from multiple people that's not the case. The case is that Matthew Stafford wants more than $40 million a year. If they could give him more than what he's currently making, that would be great. And I think he's earned that. I think he has every right to that. I think when you look at the guy, the way he plays, He just brings this level that I don't think any other quarterback is really going to meet. How many quarterbacks in the league can you say out of the 7 straight playoff games he's had with this team, he's outplayed everybody? Okay, Patrick Mahomes can't say that. He's been outplayed by Jalen Hurts twice. You can't say that about many players. Maybe Josh Allen, but that's it. It's really Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford, who, by the way, are 1 and 2 in terms of passer rating in the postseason actively. So Matthew Stafford's definitely worth the money. My thing is, I'd pay him about $55 million over 2 years, so $55 per year. I'd pay him around, say 110 to 120 over 2 years. That's what I would do. And I would have a fully guaranteed contract for him, or at least mostly guaranteed. And the reason being, and I understand there's some people that are concerned, he's getting up there in age. There needs to be something to back off, because you see Aaron Rodgers, that didn't age well. Well, Aaron Rodgers also, had the Achilles tear, kind of freak injury, but also he was in his 40s. I think with Stafford, a lot of people seem to forget 37 years of age. I know he's been banged up, but this guy's only missed 1 game if you take away 2022, where he's had 17 different offensive line combinations. Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp didn't even play half the year. So let's be honest here. Okay, Matthew Stafford has been a model of consistency. He's been there. They've started off slow. There are not really too many quarterbacks in the league that I think would have made the playoffs at 3-6, turned it around and made them a 10-7 ball club. Not many that would have turned that 1-4 team with all the injuries they had and turned them into a 10-7 ball club. But Matthew Stafford did it. Matthew Stafford also took down Sam Darnold's Minnesota Vikings in a neutral site game where, they lost the home field advantage, and they had to play a 14-win Vikings team, a very good Vikings team. Also took them down, really gave them a chance against the Detroit Lions, outplayed Jared Goff, and probably should have ended up winning last season, or the season 2 seasons ago now. And then you see what he did against Jalen Hurts, and now you have Eagles players that are coming out and saying, yeah, the Rams are the only team that had a chance of beating us. And they're right. As a matter of fact, the Rams should have beaten the Eagles. They outplayed them. I mean, that's really the prevailing theory there, and we all know it. So how did that even happen? Well, Matthew Stafford stepped up in a big way. The offensive line wasn't great in that game, and I think that needs to be talked about. I mean, even some of the best guys on that offensive line, it's hard to play in the freezing cold and all that. It's hard to play in the blizzard, but they were not great. And Matthew Stafford did everything he possibly could in that game, considering the fact that while, his mobility is very much questioned, you have to also, consider the fact that, look, he wasn't able to really move around because of the snow. You don't have great footwork. You don't have great footing in general. So, look, Stafford did everything he possibly could to lead him down the field. Came down to 2 plays, and unfortunately, he didn't get the pass protection he needed. And that's all she wrote. But is that really going to be the end of Matthew Stafford in LA? Sure feels that way right now anyway. And it's a darn shame. And you know what? I'm not going to say that there's any bad guys in this situation, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Matthew Stafford, he absolutely is not a bad guy. Look, I understand people have it in their mind now because Tom Brady took a pay cut for so long just to bring other guys that everybody has to do that and everybody has to take a hometown discount. Simply put, Matthew Stafford is asking for more than $40 million a year, for the Rams. He wants more guaranteed money, but he's not asking for $60 million. And I don't even think he really has to get to $50 million for him to be back with the Rams. However, the Rams want him to take less money, and that is where we have the impasse. So, look, it's really this simple. I think that Matthew Stafford being the greatest quarterback in Rams history, yes, I said it, I think even better than Kurt Warner, as much as I love him, I do believe he's the greatest quarterback in Rams history. One of the only 2 Super Bowls the Rams have, one of the only 4 championships in total the Rams have, and has been he's gotten them to the playoffs. He's outplayed anybody he's gone up against in said playoffs since joining the Rams. And I just think that you found your guy. This is an organization that had Jared Goff, thought he was their guy, then he wasn't. Had Sam Bradford, thought he was their guy, then he got hurt. Traded for Nick Foles, that didn't work out. Pushed Kurt Warner out the door for Mark Bulger, thought he was the guy, never won the big game like Kurt Warner did. So, look, I have a lot of experience following this team for a long time and knowing that you just don't have a quarterback. It's just a year-to-year thing, but it felt really special to have number 9 under center and to know that he was that guy, to know he could give you a chance to win seemingly any game, regardless of who was on the offensive line, who was at wide receiver. I mean, you look at some of those games earlier in the year against the Bears and the Packers, he's throwing to guys like Jordan Whittington, who probably didn't even expect himself to be playing this early on in the season. He's throwing touchdowns that are dropped in the end zone in the NFC title game to Ben Skoranek. He's throwing in the Super Bowl to Ben Skoranek. He's throwing to Bryson Hopkins, who's not even on a team currently. Now, I think he should be. That's no knock on him. But those are reality, right? I mean, the offense, the run game was not great the year they won the Super Bowl. I just think there's a lot of kind of this assumption where, okay, yeah, I understand, and keep this in mind, this isn't Stan Kroenke. Other owners won't want to give him the money. I don't think Stan Kroenke has any care in the world about paying Matthew Stafford. I think it is all about the salary cap and how teams decide to go about it. Some teams don't know how to go about it. You look at the Browns giving Deshaun Watson $230 million upfront, guaranteed, fully guaranteed. That was one of the dumbest. I think that was easily the dumbest contract ever. There's nobody even close. But, I also think, paying Dak Prescott $60 million a year at age 32 was also not the greatest move. I thought they might as well moved on from him. And, I think that's the thing is that, you look at these and just because this happened doesn't mean this, but I'll just tell you right now, this is not Stan Kroenke. This is not necessarily the Rams don't want Stafford. This is the Rams operating in a way with their salary cap that, look, we do not want to pay Matthew Stafford $50 million a year and have to, figure things out because they're doing a good thing with all the guys that they've drafted. They have to figure things out with Puka Nacua soon. They're going to have to pay Jared Verse before you know it. They're going to have to make a decision on guys like Byron Young, right? They're going to have to make a decision on Kobe Turner. They're going to have to pay guys like Braden Fisk. You can't just keep drafting well and not have to pay these guys. And, that's another thing like with Kyron Williams. Now this thing happening, does Kyron Williams get an extension, right? Is Alec Jackson back? There are a lot of different things that come down to it. But as of right now, I don't think Matthew Stafford is going to be back. I don't agree with it. I'm not going to sit here and say I do agree with it. I think it's a mistake, but I also think that there is 100% a chance that they can win a Super Bowl without Stafford, and that only chance that they have that I really feel confident with is signing Aaron Rodgers if they can't pay Matthew Stafford. Okay, so you already have traded Stafford away, likely to the Raiders from what it sounds like. Say you've gotten a couple second-round picks, maybe a conditional first-round pick in 2026. And to me, this is the best pivot. Although this might actually be the reason, this being available might be the reason Stafford's available. See, Aaron Rodgers being, cut by the Jets and Aaron Glenn taking that stance, moving on from him, this is a guy that kind of is, he does his own thing. He goes on the Pat McAfee show. He takes these darkness retreats. He goes off the grid. He's an enigma. He's a different type of guy. And, I don't see him wanting to go anywhere else. And it has been reported as such. He's willing to let the Stafford situation play out, which I'm sure every quarterback is, before they decide to make a decision. But Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be cheap because he was already, making a lot with the Jets when he was released. That was a fully guaranteed $75 million contract. He would likely bring over Davante Adams with him, who's still very productive. Watching the tape, I don't regret my take on him, even if Rodgers is gone and it's Stafford that comes back and, you're rolling with Stafford and Davante Adams. I think Adams is still a very good receiver. So he won't be cheap, but I don't think he'll necessarily be expensive either if he comes with Rodgers. The Rams also hired his former coach from the Packers, Alex Van Pelt, who he has a good relationship with. Rodgers is very high on the Rams. Mainly Sean McVay has raved about him. He's going to be 42 in December. And to me, former Super Bowl winner, this is the pivot because make no mistake about it. The thing that I think is really holding the Rams back from committing to Matthew Stafford is I think they're almost getting ready to move on from everybody. They're getting ready to plant their flag and get their guy for the future. Whether you agree with them or not, that's what I feel like they're trying to do. My absolute gut tells me Les Snead connection to Texas. I've said it before. Back when the Rams won the Super Bowl, I said it, give it 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. Arch Manning feels like the guy that they would go after, feels like the guy they want. So I will not be surprised if they trade Stafford and they opt to take less this year and get that first rounder in 2026, package first round picks, and go up and get their guy in Arch Manning. I'm telling you right now, I would not be shocked at all if that is what they decided to do. Now, with Aaron Rodgers, you can't tell me for a second that Kelly Stafford is a PR nightmare if you go out and get Aaron Rodgers. I like Aaron Rodgers personally. I know a lot of people watching this don't. Not as much as Matthew Stafford. There's only one quarterback I would take over everybody in the league, including Josh Allen, to win one game, and that is Matthew Stafford, because I just trust him wholeheartedly more than anybody. Trust him more than Patrick Mahomes. He's been outplayed twice in the Super Bowl. I don't think Matthew Stafford would ever be outplayed in the playoffs. I haven't seen it. Not with the Rams anyway. So, look, I like Aaron Rodgers, right? I don't like him as much as Stafford, but I'll tell you this right now. Aaron Rodgers is a PR nightmare, way more than Kelly Stafford would ever be. By the way, I don't believe Kelly Stafford's a PR nightmare. I don't think the Rams, I don't even buy the report the Rams truly believe in that. I think it's just kind of some of those ugly things that come up in negotiations. A really good example of this, Derek Jeter. I know I mentioned another Yankee and a lot of you are Dodgers fans, but hear me out. Derek Jeter doesn't like Brian Cashman. Mainly the reason being is because he said, I want to keep these negotiations quiet. I don't want any leaks. I don't want anybody knowing anything. And I want to be back as a Yankee. And of course, Cashman ended up leaking it to the press, and Derek Jeter held it against him. That's just the way things work. Sometimes they get ugly. I don't agree with it, but I also am not an agent. So with that said, it's gotten a little ugly. You had the Colin Cowherd thing with Kelly Stafford. My thing is, the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I think Aaron Rodgers' PR is way worse. Not talking about, anything that he believes in, because quite frankly, that's not this type of channel, and I don't give a rippity doodah what he believes in, because as long as he can play football, that's all I care about. But if we're talking PR, you can't use Kelly Stafford and then say, yeah, Aaron Rodgers. Like, you wouldn't be, if you cared so much about PR and what to say and what not to say, you wouldn't be moving on from Matthew Stafford to Aaron Rodgers. You just wouldn't be doing that. So I don't buy that for a second. I think Aaron Rodgers is the best option after Matthew Stafford because of the way he plays football. This is a guy that can still win off schedule, off script, can still run, although he's not as fast as he used to be. He can still run for first downs. I saw him run with the Jets. Watching the tape, this guy can still sling it. He's not as good as Stafford, but he's still a pretty darn good quarterback. And he was playing in a very limited offense. The offensive play calling was not great from Nathaniel Hackett at all. Was not impressed. I don't know if that was, Rodgers' buddy and him not wanting to say anything about it, but to be honest with you, I was not impressed. So you put Rodgers in a Sean McVay offense with Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams and Tyler Higbee. Maybe you go out and get Colston Loveland or a Tyler Warren or a Harold Fannin. Maybe you go out and you get, Higgins on the outside at wide receiver. I like his chances to succeed with the Rams. I think they also look at that defense and say, you know what? It doesn't really matter who's that quarterback as long as they can take care of the football because our defense is really good. No, by the way, Rodgers only threw 11 interceptions last year, threw 28 touchdowns, and has been good in the red zone, which is something that the Rams have struggled with. So, albeit I won't say that has anything to do with Stafford. I think it's more Sean McVay's play calling. I've always said that, but that's how I feel. So, Aaron Rodgers, not the most glamorous pickup here because, again, the PR nightmare, very, a very polarizing figure. I mean, you either love him or like him or you despise him. I've never met anybody that's they either hate him or they like him / love him. I like him. I don't hate him, but there are a lot of people that do. So, yeah. Aaron Rodgers right now has to decide between retirement and coming back. I think he's going to hold out. From all indications, I think he's your Rams quarterback. I think they move on from Stafford, trade him away, use that draft capital to. They want to win now, but they also, because they don't want to waste a year, They want to win now, but they also want to have their sights set on their quarterback in 2026. I think that's when they make their move, but they also don't want to just go out there and be like, you know what, let's just go out and we'll sign this guy. We'll sign Gardner Minshew and just run it. No, I don't think that they necessarily want to do that. I think they still want to win it all. They know that they can with that defense, and they still have weapons on the offensive side of the ball, and they have some cap space to play with. So I just don't see them doing that. I see it going down like either Stafford comes back, and it's very, very unlikely he does, but he comes back, or it's Aaron Rodgers, or it's some of the other guys. But Aaron Rodgers, to me, is the best option. He's the second best option altogether. He's the best option after Stafford. So he's number 2 on this list. Paying Stafford, of course, is number 1. Number 3 here is signing Jimmy Garoppolo as the starter. Now, I understand some people will push back and say, how are you saying he's better than Sam Darnold? Look, I'm going to tell you right now. If you are going to go bridge quarterback and start while, you wait for 2026, but you don't want to waste a year of a Jared Verse, of a Puka Nacua on these rookie deals, then to me, the best option is to go after guys that can run your system, have won big games in the past, and can get you where you need to go, and are going to make better decisions than others. Now, Garoppolo doesn't make the best decisions. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I have some issues with Garoppolo's decision making, right? I think a lot of people do. The end of the Seattle game, week 18, kind of showed you the whole Jimmy Garoppolo experience. He's fun, can make some plays. He also can make some plays for the other team. Now, I think it's most likely, if you take any quarterback, including Aaron Rodgers, who I'm very high on as far as coming back to the Rams, I think it's really most likely right now that Jimmy Garoppolo is your Rams quarterback in some capacity. Is he your backup? Is he your starter? Well, number 3 here on this list is to sign Jimmy Garoppolo as the starter, because number 3 means this is after Matthew Stafford. He isn't back. And Aaron Rodgers, for whatever reason, is not on the Rams, which I just, at that point, if Stafford's gone, Rodgers, to me, the only fit is the Rams. He's not getting a ton of, and obviously things can change, but he's not getting a ton of interest. I guess maybe the Steelers might have interest. I don't see it. I think it's Rams or Raiders for him, which I think is the same with Stafford. So I think those two are really connected there. And then number 3, Garoppolo. Now, if those two are gone, you have Jimmy Garoppolo as the starter. I am not thrilled about this, but I'll tell you this. Garoppolo is going to be back with the Rams in all likelihood. I feel very confident just based on what I've heard, who I've talked to. They love Garoppolo. They feel like, this is a guy that McVay loves. He's very coachable. They were impressed by the way he fit into the culture, the scheme, the offense, all of that. His play in week 18 turned some heads. His preparation throughout the year, they just really like Jimmy G. He's going to come cheaper than most quarterbacks. This isn't like a Baker Mayfield thing where some team is going to offer him 20 to 30 million. A lot of teams in this league don't believe he's a starter. They've moved on from him. The Rams had him in the building. There's comfortability there. They do believe he could start. At least those are the reports there. There's mutual interest between the two parties. Diana Rossini reported that the Rams are comfortable with him starting. I don't know if I buy this as much, but I also do somewhat buy it. I think he is the backup option, but I think they want him back regardless. If he's backing up Rodgers or Stafford, I think that's great. But I think he's the third option. I think he's ahead of Darnold and some of the other names I'll mention, but he's going to be 34 in November. So this isn't a guy that's a long-term option. This is a guy that I think could start this year if he had to. You try and win it all. Maybe you reevaluate at the deadline if a team, is interested in trading away a quarterback, say like a Bryce Young situation where a player like that comes available and you're like, maybe I go after that guy, something like that. But I don't necessarily think that Garoppolo is who they're looking at to start in 2025. And I definitely don't feel like Garoppolo is why the Rams feel so good about, if they have to move on from Matthew Stafford. I think it has more to do with Aaron Rodgers' availability than it does about Garoppolo. Could be wrong, but that's kind of how I see it and, how I've heard it. But this is a guy that's playing the Super Bowl, and he might not have the Super Bowl win, and he might be memed because of, Aaron Donald throwing him to the turf and having it throw up in the air and, intercepted in the hands of Trayvon Howard, all that. I get it. But when you look at Garoppolo, there's a reason why they chose him over Carson Wentz. And while I love Carson Wentz, I do understand why they chose Garoppolo. This is somebody that plays within the confines of the system. He is not a guy that is going to rely on his legs more than his arm. And the Rams, while they like that about Wentz, they did like that he could create. I just don't necessarily feel like the offense is there yet. I don't feel like Sean McVay is there yet where he wants a mobile quarterback. Maybe some mobility. He doesn't want a running quarterback, and I think that's ultimately why they went with Jimmy Garoppolo, who they feel fits this offense very well, and to be honest with you, he does. So he is the third option. The fourth option here is Sam Darnold, signing him. I was told mid-season if Stafford negotiations either went south or he retired after the season, Darnold was the best option, and it wasn't remotely close. It was a perfect sense because if the Rams lost, Stafford, let's just say he retired, the Rams looked at it as Sam Darnold is the guy that proved in the similar system with Kevin O'Connell, he can do some things with the football. He can really throw it. He's working. He has familiarity, but this is a guy who has some mobility that could really help the Rams offense. And then, the hope was that he was going to win some big games. And the Vikings, no matter what he did, they were always going to move on to J.J. McCarthy. So that was kind of the growing thing. It's why I think a lot of those rumors came out about a potential Stafford for Darnold swap, which I don't think necessarily was real. I think it was just kind of showing you that, the Rams like Darnold and the Vikings like Stafford. But the Vikings like Stafford for last year. I think they're really ready to commit to J.J. McCarthy in 2025 as long as all things check out. Now, that was before. Darnold's experience with KOC, Kevin O'Connell, who was the offensive coordinator for the Rams, got the Rams excited. He'll be 28 this year. Of course, that offensive coordinator was there when the Rams won the Super Bowl. Stafford threw for 41 touchdowns. So you can definitely see the connection there. But really, he's a one-year wonder at this point. He's a former first-round pick, heavily, touted out of USC. Didn't really show the ability to win in a big game. He brings the mobility the other two that I mentioned above, the other three rather, don't have. But I still feel like this is more of Goff with mobility. And the question is, does McVay want that again? And I just don't believe he does. That's not a sourcing thing. I'm not of the belief McVay wants to dive into that yet. 2026, fine. Because as long as you stick your flag in, you plant your flag, you get your guy in 2026, you can live and die by what that guy is. But to me, this year, they still want to win a Super Bowl. They have the pieces to do it. Sam Darnold, I don't think would get you that result. I think Garoppolo would be a better option. Darnold holds on to the ball way too long. Darnold makes way too many mistakes. Darnold has high upside, but as we've seen, Kyren Williams has 30 rushing touchdowns the last 2 years. I mean, when you talk about it, you don't really need a quarterback to be thrown 50 times in a game. You'd rather have a quarterback manage if you're going to lose Matthew Stafford. So Darnold, to me, is not a backup option or a backup option. He is the backup option after Garoppolo and Aaron Rodgers. And I really just don't see him going to the Rams. I mean, things can change. Again, things are fluid. But as of right now, I'm not hearing the same buzz that I was hearing earlier in the year about Sam Darnold to the LA Rams. And then you have number 5 here, which is Justin Fields. Signed Justin Fields, young, 25 years of age. I have not heard a single uttered word about Justin Fields and the guy below him on my list here, Russell Wilson. So I want to just start with that, preface with that. It just doesn't seem like the Rams are trying to grab any sort of quarterback that is a reclamation project candidate. That means I don't see Daniel Jones. I don't see Mac Jones. I don't see Trey Lance. I don't see Zach Wilson, unless Matthew Stafford is the quarterback for the Rams. Because I don't think you can do that if you get Rodgers. If you get Rodgers having that Achilles tear, only 2 years removed, and him being in his 40s, they're going to want to have Jimmy Garoppolo as the backup Also, I just think they prefer Garoppolo right now. And you know what? They might prefer Garoppolo next year as the backup, and they might try something along the lines, regardless of how this year goes. If Aaron Rodgers is your starter and he has a really good year and he needs to be paid, they're not going to pay him. They're going to move on to 2026. They're going to get their guy. They're going to pay their skill position guys, their key cogs, build some more, weight-bearing walls. And then what they're going to do is probably, hedge their bets on either Garoppolo or the pick. And either that pick is going to start in 2026 or it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo and the pick is going to have to wait. And that's really how I see it going down. So with Justin Fields, I just don't think the timeline fits. I don't think the game plan is there. Fields, again, similar thing with Carson Wentz. They already kind of told us the type of quarterback they're looking for. And I just don't think that they want Justin Fields' running ability. I don't think the offense is equipped to really handle that. It's not to say that Sean McVay can't build an offense around that, but I think the ideal Sean McVay offense isn't really looking for that. I think the ideal Sean McVay offense wants to be balanced, regardless of what you say about calling him Sean McPass. I think this is a guy that wants to run predominantly 12 personnel. I think he wants to run the football. I think they showed that this past offseason when they went out and got Jonah Jackson, who now they're trying to trade. I think that they're really trying to run the football and be a balanced offense, and that's what's going to keep Aaron Rodgers or Matthew Stafford or Jimmy Garoppolo running for a long time, or as long as you need them to. And so that's the thing. See, I don't think necessarily they're an offense that's just trying to play air raid and bring in Anthony Richardson to town. And I just don't think they're trying to do that. Now, can that change in 2026? Sure, but I just don't think Justin Fields makes sense with what their mission is. Their sights are set on 2026. They need a bridge guy. Justin Fields doesn't fit that game plan. And Justin Fields, while he would be fun to watch, just doesn't. He's more the Carson Wentz type, not the Jimmy Garoppolo play within structure type. And in addition to that, Fields is going to want money. He's going to want a long-term deal in all likelihood. And I just don't think that he makes any sense as a bridge quarterback that could be quarterbacking a really good football team with potential to win a Super Bowl, because this is a guy that's never played in a big game like that. Whereas Aaron Rodgers has, Jimmy Garoppolo has, and Matthew Stafford. Sam Darnold has and just didn't play well. Justin Fields has zero experience in a big game like that. I would take Justin Fields over Sam Darnold. Hell, I'd give him an opportunity to show himself and, maybe win for this team and see if, he could be the long-term future there. But I don't think the Rams are going to do it. And so for that reason, he's fifth on this list. And number 6 is his teammate, Russell Wilson. I have not heard any interest between the two. I know there is a lot of respect with Russell Wilson, but look, here's the deal. Justin Fields is 25 years old, okay? So there is an actual angle there. Russell Wilson is 37 in November. So you're talking about literally just you know what? We're going to pay Russell Wilson just not as much as Matthew Stafford, and we're going to move on. Yeah, that would be great, except for the fact that Russell Wilson's nowhere near as good as Stafford. 1. 2, Russell Wilson doesn't fit the scheme the way Stafford does. He doesn't have the familiarity, number 3, and, all the continuity and everything with his teammates. And number 4, oh, by the way, Stafford's not a free agent. So it's not like you have all this relinquished money. You're trading Stafford away if he moves on. If you move on, that is still going to be dead money hitting your cap. And then you have to pay Russell Wilson. He's not going to be $1 million. He didn't get asked to take $89 million to go away from the Denver Broncos this year. That was last year. Okay, so while, Rodgers' deal will be cheaper, Russell Wilson took the less money last year. He wants to get paid this year, and he's going to probably get paid by a needy team. He's likely a future Hall of Famer. He's not going to be a cheap $1 million option. It just doesn't really feel like an option. I think the only thing is the timeline fits. Bridge quarterback. He'd have some good weapons. Sean McVay. But I've just not heard anything about Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. I've heard Sam Darnold stuff. It's just gotten a lot quieter. I've heard a lot of Jimmy Garoppolo. I've heard a ton of Aaron Rodgers. I've still heard some Matthew Stafford stuff, like he could be back. Although it seems like, if he is back, like a lot of things have to change. But I'll tell you right now, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, so many different things would have to happen for them to even be in the mix for the Rams. So that's why they're so low on this list. And then honorable mentions here, trade for Kirk Cousins. I call it an honorable mention because I just don't even, I think it's worth talking about to a degree, but I just don't see it happening. The Falcons chose to bring him back. That's what they're telling us. They're not going to cut him. They're not going to eat all that money. Every dollar except for $10 million of that is guaranteed. So it's not a great contract. They're not cutting him. I don't want anything to do with that, trading for that. And so the question is, does Sean McVay want to go out and get 37-year-old Kirk Cousins? I just don't think the cap, you can really do that, right? I think he'd be fine. His struggles at the end of the season were greatly overblown. I'm not saying he was good. He was definitely not good, but people are acting like he's done. I don't think he's done. It's his first year off the torn Achilles. We saw the same thing with Rodgers. I think year 2 is going to be a lot better for Rodgers. So say what you will. I don't think Kirk Cousins is done, but I don't really, as much as I've loved Kirk Cousins throughout his career, I always thought he was underrated. I kind of feel like he's a name at this point in time. The guys that I mentioned, I'd probably take over him. If he was available to sign, that would be different. But you're talking about trading for a guy like that. I'm out on that one. And then another honorable mention is signing Zach Wilson as the backup, which I don't think is possible if you bring Rodgers in. I think this is a pivot option if Jimmy Garoppolo signs somewhere else and Matthew Stafford returns. I do know that Albert Breer reported last year, 2 years ago now, reported the Rams' interest in Zach Wilson, that, former Jets offensive coordinator and Zach Wilson's former offensive coordinator, Mike LaFleur, would be interested and would sign off on that in a reunion. So, I think Zach Wilson could be in play. But I've also heard he could go to the Raiders with Matthew Stafford. So interesting stuff there. Just some honorable mentions. I'm not going to, mention, I don't think they're going to go after Jameis Winston. I don't think they're going to go after Daniel Jones. I don't think Mac Jones, maybe, again, as a backup, but I don't think they're going to go after Daniel Jones or Jameis Winston or Jacoby Brissett or anybody like that. Stranger things have happened. I definitely could tell you, just based on what I've heard, I don't think they're very high on this quarterback class. They might draft a quarterback to replace Stetson Bennett. Really don't expect Stetson Bennett to be on this roster in 2025. But, aside from that, this is what you're looking at. If you, barring something crazy that comes up where Joe Burrow becomes available or somebody like that, your options to review. You can pay Matthew Stafford to be your starting quarterback for the next 2 years. You can sign Aaron Rodgers to a 1-year deal for pretty cheap and have him be your bridge into 2026. You can sign Jimmy Garoppolo as your backup or your starter, likely as the backup, maybe as the starter. You can sign Sam Darnold, who's going to be more money than all of those guys. Do you really want to do that? I don't know. And that might not just be a 1-year deal. He might want more than that. You could sign Justin Fields, who will not be as much as Sam Darnold, but might be in the same wheelhouse as some of the others. And when I said that, Sam Darnold won't cost as much as Matthew Stafford per se, but, he's still going to want a lot of money. Fields will be interesting. Russell Wilson will be probably in the Baker Mayfield $30 million range, 25 to 30 million. We'll see. But got to be honest with you, the best way forward for the Rams is very simply put to pay Matthew Stafford. I hope that is the understanding here. Just because I am quick, I guess, to move on, where I'm almost like ready for this to end, does not mean I don't want Stafford back. I need to make that very clear. But just because I also like the backup option if Stafford's gone, just because I like Aaron Rodgers doesn't mean I am praying that Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. He is just, to me, the best option if Stafford is gone. And I just really would try to avoid the Jimmy Garoppolo thing. I understand it. I do. But you are building a fan base in LA that I think Matthew Stafford deserves an F ton of credit for building. Okay. I think Stafford kind of got people excited. Goff had the Cal, representation. A lot of people in California liked him. So fine. I still believe that's partially why they drafted him over Carson Wentz, because I think Carson Wentz was clearly the better prospect. But that said, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Jared Goff because he's had a good career, but Jared Goff after that 2019 season, 2020, you could see he just wasn't the guy. And then you had your crowd back because the COVID season was over and you had your crowd in 2021. And that first game for Rams fans to be at, the Bears-Rams Sunday Night Football, SoFi Stadium quickly realized, oh my God, this guy is different. Like, he's Kurt Warner-esque. This is the best thing we've had since Kurt Warner. Now, some of those Rams fans weren't there for Kurt Warner. They weren't interested in the St. Louis Rams, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. But you started to see how Matthew Stafford's emergence and joining the Rams really kind of altered how the Rams fan base would grow, and it changed it for the better. And I just think he might not be the most marketable quarterback, but he's so well liked by Rams fans. I think this is a mistake, and I just think, Aaron Rodgers, say what you will, that he's so polarizing. He'll still put butts in the seats. He's still very talented. Jimmy Garoppolo is where you're going to get a lot of pushback. There are people that would probably take Garoppolo instead of paying Stafford, which I think you're insane, but that's your choice. Garoppolo, to me, very, very simply put, Garoppolo to me would be a huge step back in developing your fan base. Keep in mind, this is a year that goes by. Another year, a year removed from having your season end 14 yards short of hosting the NFC title game and likely winning the Super Bowl, or at least going to it. So it is tough for me to sit here and say, yeah, just understand. Garoppolo makes a lot of sense. I understand the bridge side of it. But when you sell bridge onto somebody, if you sell after that ending, you're trying to sell to this fan base that is desperately trying to grow. You're trying to sell to them, hey, this year we're going to go and try to win a Super Bowl, but we're going to be cheap at the quarterback position. It's just not going to go over that well. People will still go and support their team, but you will gradually see a dip. You will not have the same viewership. No one can tell me otherwise. You'll not have the same viewership if Matthew Stafford isn't under center and Jimmy Garoppolo is. And then with Sam Darnold, guys, I understand some people really want Sam Darnold. I get that. I do. And I'm totally out of focus now. So whatever I just did, great. I understand a lot of people want Sam Darnold. Okay, I understand it. There are people that still really think that he can play, would be really good in the Sean McVay scheme. Fine. But I'm not going to sit here and act like the last freaking time we all watched Sam Darnold under center, he wasn't absolutely atrocious against the Rams. And to me, that matters. And so I just think it's wicked hard to sell that to the Rams fans. You could push the argument, oh, he's a USC guy. Cool. But we all saw that. We all saw him give up 9 sacks. We saw him hold on to the football. That defense played out of their mind. They deserve credit. But Darnold was not good in that game. And you could argue before that, he was even worse against the Lions. So look, the 2 biggest games of his career, he absolutely wet the sheets. I am not trying to sell that to a fan base that's growing. Justin Fields. He's exciting. He's electric. He can make plays with his legs. He could be so dynamic, he could change this offense entirely. But at the same time, he also has never played in the big game before. So that could also go south. But I could also see Justin Fields making some sense because he's a young quarterback. They could stick by him. I would honestly argue you can move Justin Fields ahead of Sam Darnold. But does he fit the offense? Does he fit Sean McVay? That I don't know. I don't. But I will tell you, if they signed him to a 2-year deal and this guy ended up being your starting quarterback, I think a lot of fans, a lot of young fans would sure love to see Justin Fields and get that jersey. And I think it would give you something. Whereas Aaron Rodgers, are you going to sell jerseys for a 1-year guy? Are you going to sell jerseys for Jimmy Garoppolo? Sam Darnold? Like, Justin Fields to me would probably be the most marketable of those guys. And then Russell Wilson, again, the same thing. Are you going to sell jerseys to a one-year guy? Russell Wilson was not very good in Denver, had some moments with the Steelers, but when the push came to shove in the big game, he hasn't gotten it done. As of late, we know he won a Super Bowl, but as of late, he has not gotten it done. Was not good in the Steelers game, was not good in the Seahawks game when he played up against the Rams. So that's where you have it. I think that's really what it comes down to. Again, this feels like a big risk, and it might not come out looking as bad as it ended up being, but I don't think this is a good decision if the Rams move on from Stafford. I don't care about moving on earlier, 1 year earlier. He isn't showing signs, okay? If he was showing those signs, then I would have seen it against the Vikings and the Eagles. That looked like the best damn quarterback aside from Josh Allen in the league. And so by all means, if you want to play, penny pinch that guy and move on from him and go and start Jimmy Garoppolo or somebody like that, that's all on you, but I don't necessarily agree with it, and so I want to make that clear. So those are your options. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys would prefer. I know a lot of people are going to say Stafford, but I'll say this, if you're going to say Stafford, give me your backup option in case Stafford does leave, because I definitely want to see where you guys are at. I think some people will say Darnold. I think some are excited about Rodgers potentially. A lot seem to be excited about Garoppolo potentially. Where are you on Justin Fields, Russell Wilson? Is there one I missed? Sorry, I don't think anybody in the draft will be starting for the Rams at quarterback next year. I just don't see it. But maybe you like somebody in the draft. Who knows? Let me know in the comments section below. And that's going to do it. So be sure to check out today's sponsor, of course, which is BetUS. Again, 150% bonus match on your first deposit, 125% on your next two using the code YouTube150. And just want to let you guys know that tomorrow we are launching, Ethan Shirazi and I are launching our brand new Downtown Lakers channel. We will be going live at 12 p.m. Pacific time, Rams time, and 3 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, so if you want to get in on the action there, be sure to subscribe. Again, Downtown Lakers will be going live on YouTube and on Twitter. Hope to see you guys there tomorrow. That's going to do it for me. You guys take care. I'll see you soon. Later, folks. All right, guys. So once again, just want to let you guys know that you can check out my new side project, The Lounge. I interview athletes, musicians, actors, actresses, all the nine. So definitely check it out over on the Lounge with Jake Ellenbogen channel. Be sure to subscribe and enjoy. In case you guys haven't noticed, I do have a Discord channel for my community on this channel. And if you want to be a part of it, it is free. The link is in the description below. You can sign up. This is basically a 24/7 Rams channel, and we are almost at 1,100 members. So if you want to be a part of it, just hit the link in the description below.